Good morning, Mr. Sahasranam, and welcome to the oral history program of the Heritage Center of IIT Madras.
Thank you so much. In fact, Mamta has been after me for, I don't know, many years, and the time came only now, and I'm so happy to be here this morning. Thank you.
My colleague Bhuvanesh Santharam will be leading in asking you the questions today.
Thank
Hello,
you.
sir. Yeah. Thank you for coming today, sir. I want to start by asking you about your life before IIT Madras and what prompted you to join the institute.
I grew up in a very conservative and protected environment in Kerala, in a middle class family. And as you all know, those days, social media, digital revolution was all not known, and the communication efficiency was almost zero. It is by sheer chance that I came to know about the coming up of a German aided institute somewhere in Tamil Nadu or in Chennai. As I said, in a very protected environment, my high school was all in vernacular with emphasis on tradition and culture. I learned Sanskrit for 7 years in my school. Only 1 year, the pre-university, which is the threshold for the IIT entrance, was in English medium. Luckily for me, I had done well and was in the merit list of the Kerala State Board in the pre-university. So when I came for the interview, in spite of the questions asked and all, it was an automatic selection. I shudder to think if I were to apply for the so-called JEE at that time, whether I would have ever made it to the IIT. And there it started, and I ended up in IIT. And from then on, you know where it all ended up till today.
And you made several contributions to Campastimes, a publication run entirely by students in IIT Madras. And I want to show you a clip from a previous.
Sorry,
oral
before
history.
you do that, let me also add a few more things.
Yeah.
IIT was a very big transformation in my life. It wasn't an easy ride, though. You must have heard from my predecessor speaking how rudimental it was when we all ended up here. And leaving home from a protected environment, it was a sentimental shock for me. The hostels were not ready. We were put into the Kaveri hostel ground floor, which was half ready, with the snakes running around, and we used to make campfires every evening with the kill snakes. And for me in particular, my room was at the last in the wing, jutting out into that banyan tree, which was those days a cremation ground. And almost every evening, as my luck would have it, a dead body would be brought and burned. It used to burn throughout the night. And I was at the fag end of my elements. I almost left the IIT because I couldn't stand the shock. And my classmates, with the good intention of toughening me up, used to make it more difficult by running at midnight over the roof and making all sorts of noise. And if it were not for the warden who supported me, I would not have overcome all that shock of adjustment. But it was a transformation in my life, and then onwards, it was a dream ride for me in IIT. So now we can come back to your question.
Sounds like a very intense time at the hostel.
It was. Yes.
So, yes, I wanted to show you a clip.
Yes, please.
From an oral history interview. I can show it to you here. And this was from an interview with Dr. Vikram Rao. He narrates a funny little story about a caricature that you made. And I want to ask you if you remember making this caricature and what was the reaction to it. So I'll just show you this clip.
Okay, so and he said he was angry, okay, and he did not use a mic. He could have been heard 2,000 yards away, and he said, "You people, you think you are the cream of the Indian high school system. You're not the cream, you're the scum. They both rise to the top." So, of course, in the next issue of Campastimes, I got Saha to do a caricature of Sengupta. Well, he's Sengupta, but with a blue face. Okay, and he was stirring this thing. You see, this is not cream. This is scum. And then I wrote a piece with it. This is the closest I came to being dismissed. Me and Saha, although I put him up to it, so I could be blamed.
Yeah.
So they put up with it. So this is the thing, okay?
Yeah.
They realized it's all in fun, and really, anyway, they put.
I knew it. You don't need to. I knew
Yeah.
it. Because
not use the mic. He could have been heard 2,000.
it was a very big event at that time.
Yeah,
The students going on strike for some issue. You can
that's
mute
not
it.
that. Yeah,
The students going on strike for a minor issue on water or something, and then Vikram Rao, me, and my close friend Mr. Anantu, we sat together and said, "What do we do now?" So the idea came up that in the next issue of the Campastimes, I caricatured the director with a heavy heart and beating the skip. I did a venture and put up this cartoon. But believe it or not, I mean, there was adverse reaction all over, but Professor Sengupta per se himself took it very sportingly. In fact, he invited me home, and his wife was so nice. We got so friendly. I used to go very often. She used to teach me Rabindra Sangeet, and it was a very, very nice experience. They were so friendly. They were so fond of children and students, and many people didn't know this facet of the whole couple. So I used to take advantage and go and visit them very often. It was a very, very pleasant experience.
So your cartoon that we Bhuvanesh referred to,
Yes.
it shows a certain skill that you already possessed. So can you tell us about your artistic journey?
Well, I must confess, I never knew that I had the skill. It was by accident that, again, during conversation, Anantu said he knew that I had this flair of doing scribbling. So why don't you try? So I started caricaturing, and it just worked. And again, it was very rudimentary and primitive. All I had was, all I could afford those days was a croquill and the famous Indian ink and a pencil, nothing else. And somehow it just developed, and for the next 3-4 years, it flourished much beyond my expectations, and I was so happy that I could do all that what I did. But I never had any formal training in caricature or drawing. It just came spontaneously.
So did you practice art subsequently as well as a?
Unfortunately, after leaving the IIT, it was a tough beginning, establishing yourself in an environment and career challenges. So it disappeared as fast as it appeared in my career, and I never again practiced.
I see.
I regret it, but now I think it's too late.
yeah. And one of the caricatures that you drew was of Professor Krishnamurthy from the Humanities Department. He was described as a rather lively professor who would often enact scenes from the plays that he was teaching. Did you have any recollection of his classes? Did they have an influence on you? Because I know that you acted in several plays during the institute days.
Of course, how can I ever forget Professor Krishnamurthy was particularly so dynamic that nobody ever can forget. The paradox is that we were told that we have to learn humanities for 1 year, German for 1 year, and I know colleagues of mine who plugged and had to repeat the year just because they didn't pass the German exam. So it was so tough those days and so strict. But as my predecessors must have told you, those days we didn't have the facilities. The classes were either in AC Tech, which was not bad, but many of them were in the Central Highway Workshop. It was a very simple tent, and these classes used to be in peak summer in the afternoon,
Right.
no fans. So you can imagine what we went through. But Professor Krishnamurthy in particular was so dynamic, full of energy and enthusiasm. We didn't have any siesta. And in our year in particular, the topic was Pygmalion. And Professor Krishnamurti used to step into the role of Professor Higgins, and he was not Krishnamurti anymore, he was Professor Higgins. And as you rightly said, he used to enact it so effectively that we all enjoyed it. And he had that ability to step into, from Professor Higgins to the shoes of Eliza Doolittle and enact her roles as well, so nonchalantly. It came spontaneously to him. And if you were to ask me, Krishnamurti was one of the most entertaining and interesting, apart from the fact that Oxford English, and we learned a lot of English as well from him. It was very, very, very memorable experience. But I don't know how you came to Professor Krishnamurti, just because of my cartoon.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad that you referred to him because he was truly dynamic.
And I know this is a little impromptu, but we would like you to draw a caricature on the spot, if you are okay with that.
Unfortunately, I regret very much that, as he asked, ever since I left the IIT, I left that art also, and I wouldn't be able to comply with your request. I feel very sad about it. And in any case, I was not in a position to just draw by looking at you. Every time I needed a photograph from which I can reproduce the caricature, so I wouldn't be able to demonstrate it today. It's too late for me. Thank you. Sorry about
Not
that.
at all.
In the case of Professor Krishnamurti, I think you made him wear a kimono. So
Yes.
how did that happen? Did you have a photograph?
My God. No. All I needed was the face. The rest was all mine. If you see, they were all topical. Like I will answer your next question. They were all topical and spontaneous. There was no particular reason for it. I wonder why the kimono was used. There must be some reason, but I've forgotten it.
He had gone to Japan then? Is that
Something
what
there was
happened?
there was some
Yes.
Japanese connection.
There was,
And my friend Anantu only said feature him in kimono. So that's what I did.
I think this is the cartoon. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine. Now, your interest in the arts extended beyond making cartoons during your days as a student at IIT Madras, and we have some photos of you performing in plays staged at Institute Days in 1962, 63 and 1965. Now, you played the role of a lady in all these plays. Can you tell us something about these performances?
It was Tamil Nadu and Tamil culture wanted that we also stage a Tamil play, and no ladies around. A very big handicap, because without a lady character you can't have an effective drama. So they forced me into it, and even now looking back, I feel so embarrassed about it. But I must also confess that it was a thrill for me to receive the award from Mrs. Sengupta, and that is what brought us together. And as I mentioned already, we had a wonderful relationship with the Bengali couple, and I will never forget that. So, to answer your question, it was very embarrassing, but I did enjoy, and I must say it took me up to the National Youth Festival in Delhi, because we had taken a drama. And in fact, that was a shadow play, and I was used to mimic a lady's voice. It was a musical drama, and so I had to sing in lady's voice for that particular drama. Of course, we didn't get the award, but we enjoyed going to Delhi representing the IIT Madras.
So did you have to speak in a falsetto for all these performances as well?
Sorry, say that again.
In a lady's voice. You had to speak in a falsetto for all these
I just had to mimic.
You say about Balchandra.
Yeah, that drama was from Balchandra, and Balchandra himself came to the institute, spent an evening with us. He was at his peak at that time. And he is the Tamil icon director. So one of my colleagues knew him personally, and he came all the way, and he encouraged us. It was very.
He wrote the script for the drama.
It was his drama, Balchandra.
So you acted his play, and he came over to watch it and to encourage you.
Encourage us, yes. And it was a big thing at that time, because he was at his peak, And
Yes.
nobody had even access to him, but he was so nice to come all the way to the institute and
Yes.
encourage us to do it. So it was
Yes.
a very nice experience.
I mean, can you confirm that some of these plays were held at the hostel to begin with for Institute Day, and then
No.
moved to Central Lecture Theatre or Open Air Theatre?
At that time, we never the first annual day was in front of the old administrative building, that open space. They put a stage and shamiana, so it
Yes.
was all open air affair. We never had any of these facilities at that time.
Yes.
So that's where we had the. I don't remember having played in the auditorium or the. It was all makeshift arrangement.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Now, coming back to your days at IIT Madras, were you part of any other extracurricular activities? From what I gather, the NCC was quite prominent in those days. So, were you a part of that?
Yeah, as I said, it was a big transformation for me, coming from a very protected environment and no exposure to the world. But I repeat, it was a very big transformation. The first year was tough because my English wasn't good and I felt so inferior to all these big shots coming from Delhi and Mumbai and what have you. But I feel very proud to say that second and third year, I got the first rank. And then started all these extracurricular activities, which took away my focus from doing well only in the exams. And so that for my best period was the second and third year when I was the first rank holder, because those years we had only common, only from the third year, fourth and fifth year, we used to bifurcate into the various faculties. So it was very nice. So then, of course, Campastimes took away a lot of my time. NCC was great, thanks to GV and Raidu, who was in charge of NCC at that time. I attended a couple of summer camps, like one in Trichy. Imagine route march in the open air in Trichy summer.
Yes.
All this helped us to toughen up. I mean, all my predecessors must have told you how tough it was in the workshop and all that. But also the NCC added to making us tough and fit for the rigors of the future life in the open world. So then I used to play hockey at the level. So there were a lot of activities which was helpful to make us forget the rigors of the workshop and things like that. So it was an exciting life. I can't believe how those, in our case, 4.5 years because of the Chinese aggression, the first batch passed out in mid 1964 and we passed out in December 1964. So instead of July 1965, we terminated our course but no hours were taken away. The contact hours with the professors were all retained. 2 years, they cut our annual vacation altogether. So we stayed on.
Right.
And that made up for the total time. And we were able to come out in December 1994, which is why we claim that we are also part of the first batch. And that is how the Diamond Jubilee, the first 2 batches were called together.
Yes.
Tagging along with the first batch. Apart from the fact that, as Vikram said, we were the first to move into the campus, because the first batch was put up inside up at Hostel, and second year only they came in. So when they came into the campus, we were the seniors and they were the juniors. So we ragged them instead of they ragging us.
So you have a very good claim to being part of the first batch.
That's right. That's right. And I'm glad that it has been officially recognized by the Institute, and you invited us along with the first batch for the Diamond reunion. And it was so nice of Professor Kamakudi to be present himself. He received us, he gave us the awards, and he spoke highly of the batch. So it was a very gratifying event, the Diamond reunion.
So you mentioned that you used to play hockey. Now, were there any other sports that you enjoyed playing?
Well, I can't say I enjoyed playing, but I enjoyed following up. Like during that period, the Australian cricketers came, and Nawab Patowdy was not only the captain of the Indian team at that time, and he was also the chief guest for our first sports event, which was held in somewhere in Saidapet, and Professor Natarajan, our registrar, was a very good commentator. So he gave the running commentary, and Patodi was there. And then Patodi stayed in the newly inaugurated guest house next to the director's bungalow. So I had the flair. So along with a colleague of mine, I made a radio frequency transmitter. We went and interviewed him, and at an appointed time, we transmitted it so all the hostel radios could receive it. So those were the kicks that we used to have those days.
So this visit of Patodi was before the inauguration of the stadium in 1964.
Yes.
He had come previously then.
Yeah. It must have been in 62 maybe, if I
I
recollect.
see.
Yeah, much earlier.
Right.
At that time, I don't know whether you have on your record when the first sports, IIT sports, annual sports was there. It was somewhere in Saidapet in an open ground, and Patodi was the chief guest.
Right.
So I'll show you later. I've caricatured all the cricket players,
Oh,
including
alright.
Patodi.
So you also
Alright.
caricatured Mr. Natarajan.
Yeah.
We have a caricature in
Yes.
Campastimes.
Yes.
So
That was at a time when cricket was the thing for everybody.
Yes.
The Australian team coming for a
Correct.
test match. And he was a particular fan of cricket. And that is how I featured him as a batsman.
Yes. Did he also play cricket by any chance?
I can't recollect, but he was a very ardent fan of cricket and was extremely well informed. So we all used to admire him as a personality. A young, dynamic IAS officer being the registrar of the... And he used to have excellent equation with Professor Sengupta.
Yes.
The two of them did a lot for the institute in the formative years.
Yeah, can I ask you about the NCC camps? Particularly, we have photograph from Mr. Anand Singh Bawa of camp at Nilgiris. We will come to Mr. Bawa
I know.
soon, but yes. But can you tell us whether you went to other camps as well for the NCC?
The Nilgiris I missed because annual vacation was the only time once in a year you could go back home. So 1 year I sacrificed, that was in Trichy. The next year was in Nilgiris. So I had to forego that to be with my parents.
Yes.
The parents had sent you away to a so-called IIT. At that time, IIT was not known at all. So they had put such implicit faith in me, and they said, if you think that's what it is for you, please go ahead. But they had no iota of an idea of what it all meant for me then and later on in my life. So I did only one camp. Then I had to go home.
But you got scholarship.
Yeah, that is, I could survive here only because I got the scholarship in the first year. At that time, it was, the fees was, annual fees was 200 rupees and scholarship was 75 rupees. And our mess bill for a vegetarian used to be 40 rupees. And I still had 35 rupees as pocket money to go for a movie once in a weekend. So 75 rupees was a lot of money those days.
I think with 40 rupees now you can just get a plate of pani puris.
I know.
Yeah.
No, but the hostel food was very sumptuous and good, and we used to enjoy it. And being a vegetarian, I didn't miss anything.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's what it is. Thanks for reminding me. That scholarship of 75 rupees a month meant a lot for my survival. So, what else?
Yeah, you've also caricatured several other personalities on campus, such as Professor Shear, also Anand Singh Bawa, the person who started Campastimes.
Yes.
Do you remember making these caricatures, and which one was your favorite out of all?
Of course, how can I forget it? Because those were the golden days of my life. And if you ask me which is my favorite, I have to say that all of them were my favorite because whatever I caricatured were people with whom I had sentimental contacts. And as Vikram said in his interview, we used to take an event that took place like Professor Shear. used to, those days there were no speed restrictions and 10,000 rupee fine. So he used to whiz past with his dog at the back in his buggy. And so everybody used to admire that scene, waited for him to whiz past and admire. So that was my caricature.
Nice.
Or Dr. Klein was
Yes.
such a thorough gentleman. I had so much of attachment because, as I said, I learned Sanskrit for 7 years. And when I came to know that you have to learn German, I was so excited because I had read about the Indo-Germanic contacts, and Dr. Klein had done his doctorate in Sanskrit literature. So he taught us German, bringing out the similarities between German grammar and Sanskrit grammar. And believe it or not, when I tell you that the Sanskrit grammar is not 90% but 100% same in its structure as German. So for a layman from outside, you won't be able to see that. But if you see the mathematical structure of the grammar, German and Sanskrit are very close. So I'm able to speak even today grammatically correct German because Dr. Klein always brought out the synergy between Sanskrit and German, and that sunk in me, and I could never forget that. So caricature, and he one morning had an accident. It was a minor accident, but those days. So
yeah, I think you've made a caricature of that.
I put
Yes.
him with his car in shambles. So I mean, each and every caricature was so nice, so timely, and I can never forget. So I can't really tell you which one my favorite was, except that Klein, I had a very special relation. Once I fell sick in the hostel, he came to know. He came to the hostel, took me, and I stayed with him for a week till I recovered. Imagine the kind of relations that you used to have with your faculty. And he was so nice. He came all the way and took me home and sent me back to the hostel. And while sending me back to the hostel, he gave me a small bottle of brandy and said, take it after dinner. It'll help you recover faster with your stomach. And it did. I mean, those days, alcohol meant nothing to me. But he said, take it as a medicine. So all I'm saying is that people were so nice. It was a small campus, 120 students per batch and 20 German professors. And it was a very compact, comprehensive, small unit. We all used to feel at home. It was today, I'm sure with all this growth, the personal touch must have reduced. And those days, it was the personal touch that meant a lot to all of us.
Which branch did you go to?
I chose mechanical engineering.
Mechanical engineering.
Professor Murthy. So it was mechanical engineering. And those days, mechanical engineering was the most preferred and with the prospects in future. So I was lucky to do that. And then in the final years, my specialty was hydraulics. Right. So Dr. Sher, in fact, I was the one who set up the lab. Because after the graduation, I worked for 8 months as senior technical assistant attached to Professor Sher. So he put me on this job. So I set up the water hall, what they call. And one day on his table, I saw a lot of catalogs and pubs. One of them was a company called KSP in Germany. So I asked him, what is this? He said, they are one of the most famous companies in Germany. So believe it or not, I wrote to them saying that I'm passing out. Can you give me some opportunity? He said, come over. And I went there. And I worked for that company for 47 years. Wow. One Ekapatni Vratam. I had only one job. And of course, I worked for them in Germany, India. The last 10 years, I worked in China, and I retired. So that was one job. See how accidents take place. I worked for Dr. Sher, and Dr. Sher had this catalog, and then he recommended this company to me, and then that was the rest of my life.
We have photographs of the labs coming up,
Yes.
the air hall and the water hall.
Yeah, I did the water hall.
Yeah.
And in fact, many of the equipment required we cast in our own foundry in bronze and machined it and fixed it. So it was a great experience of learning with Professor Sher. He was such a committed person. So nice to work with him. I will never forget that.
We have one of the turbines that Professor Sher installed in the water hall.
Yes.
It now stands outside the Heritage Center because the lab itself has been decommissioned.
Is that so?
Yes, it has been rebuilt as.
Oh, how sad. I
larger
remember now when you
structure.
say that, it was a gift from Germany, this turbine. And we had a old traditional German mechanic, and I used to be with him for 2 weeks when he was setting it up. So it was a great experience, and I'm sad that all things have to come to an end in life. So must the life of this water turbine, and it has now become a showpiece.
That's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
but it was great those days. So what else, sir?
So you mentioned personal touch about IIT Madras being a small unit where everybody knew each other. Were you able to maintain this? Were you able to stay in touch with your batchmates and other college mates after?
Yes and no. No, because when you leave the IIT, you are still young, aspiring, you have your own priorities, set up your career. So that took away a lot of time. And the other thing is, those days, communication was so difficult. In fact, even while being here, it was impossible to get a call through to your parents. You had to book a PP call, and my name was so complicated that fellow never understood Sahasranaman. So my fellow student said, "You better cut short your name. We can't call you with this name." That is how the name Saha came about, and it became legal and official at some stage in my life. So it's only Saha now. So coming back to you, later on when the technology revolution took us to the digital world and social media, it was much easier to communicate. So we restarted after a period of dormancy. So I would say that the first 10, 20 years, it was zero communication, particularly for me, because I went away to Germany and it was very difficult to keep in touch. I never came to India, came only at the end of my 2 years. So it was difficult. But subsequently, with all this communication ease, we rebuilt, and it culminated, as I already said, in the Diamond Reunion, where we all worked together to make it happen. So that time, the communication was much better and reborn, so to say.
What memory of IIT Madras made a big impact on your life?
Difficult to say. I mean, everything was memorable. As I said, coming out of the shell in a traditional middle class family, meeting students, it was a very good thing that IIT Madras did to make sure that we had students from all over the world, all over the country. So in this 120, we had students from all states of the. So it was a national integration, so to say, and living with these people who were so alien to us, like coming from Kerala with only Malayalam as the language and a little bit of Sanskrit and very little of English, communicating with people from Bengal and Nagaland and Assam. It was such a nice experience, and this is what we carried when we went out. We were more cosmopolitan and could appreciate the differences in the culture worldwide. It was a great exposure. And then, as I said, the memory with Dr. Klein was so nice to me. The memory with Professor Sengupta and his wife, with a personal touch. I was a great admirer of Dr. Natarajan. We had some equation right from the day one. And so Natarajan, I was fascinated by his personality and dynamism as a young registrar. So that you can go on. There's so many incidents which are etched in your memory till you breathe your last, and that is what is great about IIT.
Let's talk about Mr. Anand Singh Bawa and the Campastimes team.
Yes.
So how did it get together? And I mean, when did you meet Mr. Bawa first?
Yeah. We were all in the same hostel, 120 of us. We had a personal touch. So, as you know already, Bawa was the main backbone behind it, and Dr. Klein was the support. And everything was so primitive those days. You know, we had a press, diocesan press, which was very primitive. So printing it was a great task.
It was far away, wasn't it, from here?
Yeah, it was far away.
In Kiel Park or so? Or not that far?
No, not that far. It was not that far, but it was somewhere out, and traveling those days, except for those privileged few who had their own scooters, for the others, it was cycling all the way to the gate, taking a bus. So it wasn't an easy affair, but we all enjoyed it. And Baba was instrumental, and he was the first editor. And right from how the name Campastimes came about, it was a nice thing. I felt so sad when you changed the name, because I thought that you were killing a tradition and a culture. And I felt that Campastimes was a much better name. I even wrote to Mamta saying that I feel sad that the old name was changed. It could have been retained for its heritage value.
Yes.
But anyway, so be it. So, as Vikram also said in his interview, it was all ad hoc. Something happens, we take it up. Some months we struggled to fill the space because not too many were willing to come and contribute. And so it was only few people. Of course, my job was primarily to accompany Vikram and others who did the interview and pick up the point from that interview and bring it to light through my caricature. So it was a great experience, and we will never regret it.
So you mentioned that they've changed the name of Campastimes, but there's another thing that I've noticed: the type of humor that was produced in the 1960s that you were very much a part of.
Right.
We do not see that now. What is your take on that?
I shouldn't say that, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to this point. Those days we were a small, compact unit, so we all used to feel at home. I mean, for me to take the liberty of caricaturing the director as a Krishna baby about the scum and cream, I don't need to repeat it.
Yes.
So that's a big risk I took. But he turned out to be such a fine gentleman. I really can't recollect how this cream and scum came about, because, as I mentioned already, both he and his wife, they loved children. They were feeling sad that students were not coming home to spend time with them. Yeah, and I'm one of the few who discovered it and took advantage of it. So whenever I went there, you were so welcome. She was just like a mother to you, you know. And for her to offer to teach Rabindra Sangeet and things like that. So, I don't know how we came to it, but it was a great experience.
Yes.
It was a great experience.
They had a dog, which many students remember.
Yes, they had a dog.
Recall? Yes.
Yes, I recollect. That was one of the deterrents for going home. But once you get used to it, it was a cakewalk. Yeah, it was great.
How did the sketches that you make, which I assume were made on paper, how did they convert them to these printed images? Because the printing technology was so different.
I know.
Then.
Luckily, as I said, I used to use only very rudimentary, just a croquil and in an ink, and we used to give it to the press, and they used to print it. It was not too big enough. It was okay.
The press took care of.
Press took care of it. And then, of course, this I have to show that the first convocation, the chief guest was President of India, Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. And I don't know how I came with the idea of making a life-size portrait. and presented it to him, and then asked him for an autograph. So this is the original autograph version of it.
Wow.
And of course, he left the portrait behind, and it around the wall of the Senate room for a while. But I'm sure in the 60 years, it must have perished or must have been removed. I don't even know where it is. All I have is the photograph that I took of that. This is just pencil and paper,
Wow.
nothing else.
This is amazing.
If you would like it for the archives, I will leave it here. You can.
This has a photographic quality. The original.
The
It
original.
looks as though we have drawn a photograph.
If you get a chance, you might see whether it's lying in some nook and corner of some. Originally, it was put up in the Senate room at that time, the boardroom, and I have only a photograph. So it was a great experience meeting him and get his autograph at that time.
Well, we'll be very happy to preserve it here. Sir.
Please
Yes.
do that.
Thank you so much.
My privilege to leave this trace behind. And I brought a few of them. If you want, wow. This of course are the. This is the GV and Raidu.
Oh, yes.
NCC.
Yes.
This is Richie Bano. He was in the team. This of course is Dr. Sher. This is Chandu Bode, who was a batsman at that time. These names I forget. This of course is Nawabo Patodi. This is ML Jaisima. This, of course, I don't need to tell you who it is.
Yes.
Sampath.
Yes.
Yes, Professor Valluri I was a great admirer of him. And he also had an open house. You could walk into his house anytime. And he was always in good humor. And his wife was also a very, very nice lady. So, Mr. Ramchandra Pai and I, my colleague in the batch, we used to go to him. In fact, Pai and I got an Indian patent for a unique rotary engine, because we never pursued it after we left the institute, but we did file for a patent, and he also encouraged us to file for it, and we got a patent for it. It's all dead and gone now, but this was also one of my favorites.
Professor Valluri left for the US at some point.
No, he became the HAL chief.
HAL.
Yeah. And it was through him only Dr. Pai went to HAL and he became a successor. He was also director of Hindustan Antibiotics in Bangalore. This, of course, is Dr. Klein. And like Professor Krishnamurthy, Dr. Anantaraman was also a very dynamic person, and he was also an open house. People could walk into him anytime and take any help, discuss any subject. He was always open, very stylish. That's why I put him in a bow tie.
Yes.
So these are a few things which, if you would like to keep it, I would like to leave it behind, because my days are counted, and after me, who will take care of it? At least here I know that it will be for the posterity and memory of the institute at the formative years in the beginning. So if you would like to have them, it's up to you. I think many of them are missing. Either I can't find them, or I might have already presented it to the Heritage Center you might look for. Many are missing, and I can't even find where they are. 60 years of life. So
we would certainly like to
my
keep them in our collections.
my
Yes.
privilege to leave them behind for you.
Thank you very much for this. Yes.
My pleasure, as I said. What else, sir?
Yeah, I think we've reached the end of the interview. And I wanted to ask you, is there a message that you would like to share to the IIT Madras community?
Message, I feel so small compared to the new generation of young Turks. I mean, the quality of the students here, the intellect and their vision, there is a world of difference from our days. But I can say that I already mentioned, when we came into the IIT, we knew nothing about what IIT was. And even when we left the IIT, we never dreamt that in our lifetime, we will see a changed IIT. As I said, when we came, IIT was a non-entity. One of the predecessors have said, if you say, where are you studying? IIT. Oh, Gindi Engineering College, is it? IIT. Oh, IIT, is it? Nobody knew what IIT was. And today, it's a privilege for you to get selected to join the IIT course. And the entrance is so difficult. So my message to the youngsters is that be proud of the fact that you are in one of the most enviable institutes, not only in India, but worldwide. I mean, IIT Madras is a name to reckon with. So to be part of it and to become an alumnus, you must be really privileged. So please take advantage of this to do the best, not only for you in your career, but also for your alma mater. I'm glad it is happening because I've seen many of the students have done so much for the institute by way of financial contribution and other contribution to take IIT where it is today. And IIT still has a long way to go. So be a part of this phenomenon, be a part of this wonder, and carry it further for the name of our nation, India. I fully agree with the initiative taken by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and it's like make India great again. We were great once upon a time, as Professor Shashi Tharoor used to say that in the olden days we had 25% of the GDP of the world, and the British brought it down to 0.1% of what it is. Take it back to where it belongs and make India great again. And IIT Madras will have a very big role to play in that endeavor. That's all the message that I can leave for the students.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us today for this oral history interview conducted by the Heritage Center. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you so much. And once again, thank you for this privilege. Mamta was after me for many years, and it was my privilege to be present here with my wife, who's always been at the back of me. And we will now have a quick round of the institute and go back with memories which will remain etched in me till I breathe my last. Thank you for this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.